Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and this is News Night. Over the next 60 minutes, we will get you all the news, views and bespoke analyses from our network of correspondents and distinguished experts. Our cover story is on India-China relations. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has issued a statement clarifying his remarks on the violent face-off with Chinese troops at Galwan Valley in Ladakh. We revisit that statement to help you, the viewer, understand what he said and meant. We will also talk about related developments. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh will travel to Russia next week, and Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar will hold a trilateral video conference with his Russian and Chinese counterparts next week. Also, Indian Air Force Chief Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhadoria says India is not at war with China, but India is prepared to meet any contingency. We will discuss each of these issues threadbare with our guests. That's not all. We'll get you the latest from the ground in Ladakh as well. Now, also on the show, a deep dive into the rural employment campaign for migrant labor. Now, Prime Minister Modi officially launched the 125-day rural employment campaign in 6 states. Plus, updates from around the world so that you know what it takes to be on top of the news. All that and more coming up over the next hour. But first, as always, the headlines. The government says attempts made to misinterpret the Prime Minister's remarks to an all-party meeting says unnecessary controversy was created to lower the morale of the Indian Armed Forces. Ministry of External Affairs says China's untenable claims with regard to Galwan Valley is not in accordance with China's own position in the past, says the Indian side has never undertaken any actions across the LAC. The Prime Minister says India is proud of the sacrifices by its brave soldiers in Ladakh, lost the valor of the Bihar Regiment. Indian Air Force Chief pays tribute to the braves, says their sacrifice will not go in vain. Prime Minister Narendra Modi launches a 4-month-long employment campaign to give jobs to rural folk and migrant labor. Kicks off the campaign from Telihar village in Bihar's Khagaria district via a video conference. Says the campaign will also boost farm income. Delhi Lieutenant Governor Anil Baijal rolls back compulsory 5-day institutional quarantine, says only those COVID-positive cases would be required to undergo institutional isolation who do not have adequate facilities for home isolation. India's recovery rate from COVID-19 disease stands at over 54%, more than 2.13 lakh people cured. The number of active cases crosses 1.68 lakh. And the COVID-19 cases worldwide rises to nearly 87 lakh. Global death toll crosses 4.6 lakh. Brazil has the second worst outbreak after the United States. The WHO says that countries must lift restrictions slowly and carefully. All right, let's get started. Our cover story on Newsnight is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's statement clarifying his remarks made at the all-party meeting on 19th June. Now, the meeting was called to get a sense of the mood of the nation and forge a consensus among the political parties on how to deal with the fallout of the violent face-off between Indian and Chinese troops in Ladakh. The Prime Minister said on the occasion that neither was anybody inside India's territory, nor was any Indian post captured. Now, that remark of his was mischievously interpreted by some to suggest that the Prime Minister was less than economical with the truth. Mind you, the Prime Minister made a number of other equally important points, 7 to be precise. But some people selectively picked on only one point, literally pounced on it, and twisted it out of context. Now, it would not be an exaggeration to say that this kind of cherry picking brings back memories of internal disunity, reminiscent of the battles of Plassey and Tarain. The Prime Minister's office has since put out a statement clarifying what he said and what he meant. Right, so what did the Prime Minister's statement actually say? Take a look at the following graphic which we have on the screen behind me. To begin with, the Prime Minister's clarification says the Chinese forces came in much larger strength on the LAC, that's line of actual control. The Chinese side also said they transgressed the line of actual control. That's the most important point in the clarification. Also, China sought to erect structures across the LAC on India's side of the LAC, to be specific, and China refused to desist from such actions going forward as well. And going on to the last point that led to the violent face-off on 15th June. Now, the other major point coming from the Prime Minister's clarification was the Indian response was commensurate with the threat posed from the other side. Now, he made two other important quotes. What are those? The first quote says, the Prime Minister's observation is that there was no Chinese presence on our side of the LAC pertain to the situation. It goes on to say, the situation, if I can quote, as a consequence of the bravery of our armed forces, the sacrifices of the soldiers of the 16th BR Regiment foiled the attempt of the Chinese side to erect structures and also clear the attempted transgression at this point of the LOC on that day, unquote. That's quote number one from the statement. The second quote says, and I quote again here, what is Indian territory is clear from the map of India. This government is strongly and resolutely committed to that. Now, insofar as there is some illegal occupation, the APM was briefed in great detail how over the last 60 years, more than 43,000 square kilometers has been yielded under circumstances with which this country is well aware, and goes on to say that it was also made clear that this government will not allow any unilateral change of the line of actual control, unquote. So that's the statement made by the Prime Minister's office today, clarifying his remarks made to the all-party meeting. We'll get you all the latest with our guests and correspondents from the ground, and we'll move on to the other stories in the run-up on Newsnight tonight. We'll get you the latest from the ground as well. So what did the Prime Ministers, and talking about India and China, now the Air Chief Marshal RKS Bhadoria has said that India is not at war with China, but the Air Force is prepared to meet any eventuality. He was speaking in Dundigul near Hyderabad, where he was reviewing the parade of the cadets passing out from the academy there. These are the visuals from the academy in Dundigul near Hyderabad. Right, so he says the Air Force is not foreseeing any threat, but at the same time, it is prepared to meet any eventuality, increasing the maritime patrols as well. He says the sacrifices of the soldiers who perished in the face-off at Ladakh will not go in vain, and that their actions demonstrated the resolve to protect the sovereignty of the country.
The development at the LAC in Ladakh is a small snapshot of what we are required to handle at short notice. In spite of unacceptable Chinese action after agreements reached during military talks and resultant loss of life, all efforts are underway to ensure that the current situation at LAC is resolved peacefully. But it should be very clear that we are well prepared and suitably deployed to respond to any contingency. I assure the nation that we are determined to deliver and will never let the sacrifice of our braves of Galwan go in vain.
Now, the Air Chief Marshal says all three services are fully prepared to deal with any contingency.
Handle any contingency, all three services. We know the situation and we have taken necessary actions that are required to be taken.
Right, moving on to commemorate the 75th anniversary of victory in the Second World War, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh would visit Moscow to attend the Victory Parade on 24th June. He would be traveling to Moscow at the invitation of his Russian counterpart, Sergei Shoigu. The parade, which was originally scheduled for the 9th of May, was postponed due to the coronavirus pandemic. Now, the Russian side conducted a rehearsal of the parade earlier in the day. A tri-service 75-member Indian military contingent has reached Moscow to participate in the Victory Parade. The participating marching contingent is led by a major rank officer of the Sikh Light Infantry Regiment. This regiment had fought with valor in World War II and has the proud distinction of earning 4 battle honors and 2 military crosses, among others. India's participation in the Victory Parade will be a mark of tribute to the sacrifices made by Russia and other nations in the Second World War, in which Indian soldiers also participated and made the supreme sacrifice. All right, time to bring in my guests on Newsnight. Joining me are 3 very eminent experts. Let me introduce them to you. Ambassador Mohan Kumar, he is the chairperson of Research and Information System for Developing Countries, also known as RIS. It's a leading New Delhi-based think tank which engages in policy research relating to trade, technology, investment, development, connectivity, and South-South cooperation. He served as India's ambassador to France and Bahrain, and he oversaw India's bilateral ties with Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Maldives. My second guest is Professor Harshvardhan Pant. He is a distinguished fellow at Observer Research Foundation, a New Delhi-based think tank. And my third guest is Captain Alok Bansal. He is the director of India Foundation, a public policy think tank based in New Delhi. Now, Captain Bansal has served in the Indian Navy as well. Gentlemen, welcome to Newsnight. Let's start with the main topic of the discussion tonight on Newsnight, and that has to do with the Prime Minister's clarification on his remarks made yesterday at the all-party meeting. Now, he says, and he makes a number of important points, but the fact remains that he says the Indian response was commensurate and that China sought to erect structures across the LAC on India's side of the line of actual control. My question to you, Ambassador Kumar, is what do you make of the clarification, and should this and will this put to rest all the speculation swirling around since those remarks yesterday?
So I sincerely hope so, and thank you very much for having me on the show, because it's a real shame that a matter of such gravity has been reduced to misinterpreting what the Prime Minister said. I think it just makes me feel very sorry, frankly. But I hope the clarification completely puts an end to any kind of speculation in the matter, because for me, I think his clarification, the PMO clarification, but also the readout from the External Affairs Ministry, I think that is interesting, because if you take a holistic approach to whatever you know, it seems clear that in the month of May, our regular patrolling in the Western sector was impeded by the Chinese. And somewhere the latter half of May, an attempt was made to cross over by the Chinese troops across the LOC. And then standard operating protocols kicked in. And then there was an agreement reached on June 6th between the commanders, which I think was reneged by the Chinese side. So really what the viewers need to understand is that you've got 3 things. You've got the Indian LAC, you've got an LAC on the Chinese side, and in between you have a no man's land. So it is entirely possible that you could have misperceptions, but it is clear to me that there has been a Chinese provocation, and that is what is really important for me. And the
Right.
Prime Minister's statement, to my mind, should be interpreted to mean that at this point there is no transgression,
All right.
or there is no other post from India taken by the Chinese side.
All right, fair point, Ambassador Kumar. If I can bring Captain Bansal in, and I'm told my colleague Amrit Pal is joining us live from Leh as well. I come to Amrit in just a bit. But Captain Bansal, the Prime Minister made several points in his remarks yesterday as well as in the clarification this morning. Now, he made 8 points yesterday in his speech to the all-party meeting, but only 1 point was picked on by some quarters. What did you make of the emphasis placed on infrastructure development by India on its side of the LAC, and how that has unnerved the Chinese side and which perhaps led to the violent face-off in Galwan Valley? Captain Bansal?
See, we need to understand from 62 onwards, for decades, the governments in India as well as the military suffered from a defeatist mindset. Consequently, we did not develop any infrastructure all along the border areas.
Right.
We did not construct roads, we did not construct airfields. In fact, the airfields that existed in 62 were lying to rot for almost 4 decades. It's only recently that we have started reviving those airfields, we have started building up those road structures. And all these roads were not built under the false premise that Chinese will come down these roads, as if roads allow access only in one direction.
Right.
And as I said, now of late we have started building roads. The recent road which we have built from Tangse to Dalotbe Goldi across Galwan River is a all-weather road. It is actually a road which allows access to Galwan Valley and these
Right.
areas from Tangse all around the year. This has created certain concerns. As far as Prime Minister's clarification is concerned, we need to understand that after his previous statement, there were certain sections of the media which had clamped down, saying that if this is the case, if the Chinese have not made an incursion, then what was it? But what Prime Minister has clarified is very clear, that Chinese had crossed over to what we perceive as the line of actual control.
Right.
And in their discussions on 6th of June, it was decided that they will pull down. On 15th June, they were supposed to have pulled back to the area across line of actual control. They did not do. And that is when our troops had to get into some sort of a broil, because they had to push them to
Right.
vacate that area which they had agreed to do so, where they had erected certain structures which had to be dismantled. But
Indeed.
now what is happening is that with the infrastructure that has come up, we need to be very categorical that our strategic and tactical posture all along the India-China border,
Right.
that is including line of actual control as well as international border, is fairly strong. And we are in a position to give a befitting reply to the Chinese anywhere and at any place of
All
our
right.
choosing.
Right, fair point. Professor Pant, I'll come to you in just a bit, but I want to go across to my colleague Amrit Pal Singh, who is waiting patiently by in Leh, in Ladakh. Amrit, good to have you on Newsnight. I'm sure it's biting cold where you are, so very quickly, explain to our viewers the topography, the altitude, the weather conditions where you are, and how that might affect the soldiers working and living and patrolling those heights. Indian soldiers brave those odds to fend off the aggressive designs of the Chinese. So help our viewers understand what's the lay of the land in Leh and Ladakh as we speak.
Well, where the soldiers are at the LAC, I can tell you the weather is very, very harsh. Human body at those heights poses a lot of problems. I mean, to survive, it's a fight just to survive at those heights. And then to fight an enemy, it becomes even more difficult. Radio communications crack up, people lose health, eyesight, you need acclimatization. It's a very, very difficult terrain. Inhospitable supply lines get affected. The air is thin, breathing becomes a problem, oxygen is rare. It's like 15,000 feet high heights. The temperature dips to -30 degrees Celsius. So these are the sort of weather conditions, and the terrain is inhospitable. inhospitable, even for the troops who are patrolling.
Right.
There are hardly identifiable landmarks. There are no hamlets around defining the LAC. Though you have it defined on the map, as the External Affairs Ministry statement today said, that India is very clear. But when you have a patrol moving around, all rugged, jagged mountains look the same. So losing your way is a very, very, it's very common. You have about 100 deaths or casualties every year just because of the weather. So when you have to fight an enemy in these conditions, it becomes really, really difficult. And that is why the focus, as Captain Captain Bansal was saying, what irked the Chinese was the infrastructure development, the DSDBO road, the bridge, the Bailey Bridge over the Galwan River, which basically gives support to these troops to patrol these points and make it more effective patrolling.
Indeed. And before I let you go, Amrit, a quick comment on what the locals have to say about and how do they view this current face-off in Ladakh. Did you get a chance to speak to the locals, maybe the local representatives and others who were in Leh?
There was palpable anger when the 15th June incident happened. The locals said that they have been, this is the land of their forefathers and they will shed their blood, lay down their lives to defend it. They're done in the past. We've seen the Ladakh Scouts, a valiant regiment of the Indian Army, fight in Kargil. They've been, rewarded for that. They've earned many decorations, military decorations for them. So there was palpable anger, but there is a very strong sense of nationalism when you talk to the average Ladakhi. They say this is they say that the Chinese often come drop pamphlets on the border areas saying that, oh, you've been a part of Tibet. All through they say we do not feel that, we do not believe that. Our forefathers have protected this land. It is our land. In fact, I today spoke with the descendant, the grandson of Rasul Galwan, the man after whom the Galwan River and the Galwan Valley was named. He said that he was palpably angry and visibly angry at the 15th June incident. He said this is my land, and my people have shed their blood. So there is a strong sense of nationalism and pride in the Ladakhis when it comes to any foreign intrusion or any foreign power casting a bad eye on their land.
Indeed. On that note, Amritpal Singh in Leh, thank you so much for joining us on Newsnet. Appreciate it and stay safe. Right, if I can bring in my third guest on the show tonight, Professor Harshvardhan Pant. Professor Pant, it's been nearly a week since the face-off in Galwan Valley. Are India and China any close to resolving this issue, or you think this is going to be a long drawn affair which might take months and possibly years?
Well, I don't think this is going to be resolved anytime soon, given the larger problems that, the underlying problems that India faces with China. But clearly there is an attempt by both sides to diplomatically de-escalate it, and we have seen that attempts to diplomatically tone down the rhetoric. Now, Chinese have been extremely adamant. In fact, if you see their statement today, the kind of statements they have made are quite unfortunate because they do not create the kind of atmospherics we need and the kind of optics we need to move forward. And I think the Prime Minister's statement also was equally categorical in some ways, wherein India stated its intent to stand up to Chinese shenanigans and take China frontally on. So I think in India you see a larger narrative, a larger resolve being created, that if this is a long haul, so be it. India is prepared to stand up to China, and India is prepared to stand up in various domains. So clearly, right. I think we are going to see a long drawn-out affair between the two states, and China, in particular, I think has to show some, effort or some attempt to understand Indian sensitivities if they expect India to move forward and if they expect this process to move forward. Unfortunately, as of now, we don't see any of that happening.
Absolutely, Ambassador Kumar, looking at the reading the text and looking at the context and subtext of it all, I can't help but go back to what Prime Minister said in his clarification today. If I can go back to that document, he says the Chinese transgressed the LAC. China sought to erect structures across the LAC on India's side of the LAC, and the Indian response was commensurate. So clearly, China is in violation of the agreement and understanding, so China cannot possibly play the victim card anymore.
I completely agree with you. I think you'll have to look at what has happened over the last 50, 60 years. What I found very interesting in the statement or the clarification is that we appear to have lost 40,000 kilometers over the last 60 years. I haven't heard anybody contest it yet. And Congress has been so to speak, as a ruling party for the substantial part of that time. I think the salami tactics that the Chinese have used for the last 50, 60 years has been suspected by many people like us. I think we suspected as much. What I think you are seeing, and which might explain the Chinese intransigence, if you like, is that we have now started saying enough is enough. We are not going to allow Chinese nibbling of our territory anymore. That could also be a factor, I suspect, because as I said earlier, you've got an LAC on the other side, but you've also got a no man's land. So there is a bit of ambiguity, and you can do three things. One is an outright transgression, which you referred to. The second is putting up a structure which was not there earlier, and that would mean you are changing the status quo. But third would be that where the LAC is not clear, you can also nibble territories. I would suggest for your consideration, the viewers, that I think the present government has taken a view that enough is enough. We will not allow this kind of nibbling to go on anymore. And this has obviously got a reaction from the other side.
Absolutely.
But I agree with Professor Pant that we may be in for a long haul on this one.
Indeed. Enough is enough, says Ambassador Mohan Kumar. If I can go across to Captain Bansal now. Captain Bansal, I want to dwell on one other point in the statement before I open it up to other points on this discussion. The Prime Minister's statement says India will not allow unilateral change of the LAC, and he goes on to say, what is Indian territory is clear from the map of India. This government is strongly and resolutely committed to that. Insofar as there is some illegal occupation, the all-party meeting was briefed in great detail how over the last 60 years, more than 43,000 square kilometers has been yielded under circumstances with which this country is well aware. It was also made clear that this government will not allow any unilateral change of the LAC, unquote. Rather terse, straightforward, direct statement from the Prime Minister, which should leave no doubt in anybody's mind, isn't it, Captain Bansal?
Yeah, there is no doubt, as far as Prime Minister has made it very clear that India's map defines India's territory. As far as the territories under the illegal occupation of China are concerned, they form two major chunks of territories. One is, of course, around 37,000 plus square kilometers of territory in Aksai Chin and eastern Ladakh, which is under Chinese occupation, which they occupied in '62 during the transgression, during the war, where they came in and captured territory. And the other major chunk of the territory is over 5,000 square kilometers of territory of Shaksgam Valley, which was ceded by Pakistan to China as part of 1963 Sino-Pak agreement.
Right.
Besides this, we need to understand that post '62, the government and the polity had actually got into a sort of a shock. And for many decades after that, we did not deploy our troops onto the border. And it is at this point of time that different interpretations came up of line of actual control. The Chinese creeped in a little bit ahead. But ever since the talks have started, the army has been deployed. Let me make one thing very clear. The Indian army has not allowed Chinese to creep forward anymore. We have done. There is, of course, a difference of perception as far as line of actual control is concerned. And as a result, we have been patrolling up to our limit of line of actual control. And Chinese have been patrolling up to their limit of line of actual control, which unfortunately overlap. But what had happened this time was that the Chinese came and stayed put. Now, this is what is transgression, and that's where I think the confrontation and that's where the contestation took place. And that is when 6th June we had the meeting and they agreed to pull back. And while pulling back, when they refused to pull back and continue to occupy a particular point, we had the incident that happened on 15th June. As I said very categorically, today's India is not an India of 1962.
Right.
We are strong, we are resolute, and Prime Minister made it very categorical that sovereignty and integrity of India is uncompromisable. There is going to be no compromise on that. Having said that, will China vacate all the 42,000 square kilometers of territory? Not to my mind immediately. We are in for a long haul, but at least we need to ensure that we do not have a repetition of such incidents ever in future. China has realized that it is dealing with a different India, which is going to react strongly. They now know the strength of Indian troops, because after 67, where they suffered a huge setback, they did not do it for decades. And now they have again faced the Indian troops, and now they have realized the strength and the capabilities of the India's forces. I think they will again exercise restraint for decades to come. Right. So I think a time has come when we should sit across the table and firstly define what the line of actual control is. The China's reluctance to define line of actual control indicates that they have certain ulterior motives. Otherwise, why should they have a problem? They have not even agreed to exchange the maps except in the central sector. So these are the issues, I think, which we would need to resolve. And I think after Prime Minister's statement, no one in this country or even across the border has any doubt as to what India intends to do.
Absolutely. Professor Pant, let me broaden the ambit of the discussion to dwell upon other related developments. One, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh expected to travel to Moscow next week. Also next week, the Russia, India, China trilateral foreign ministers meet via video conference, which will be attended by Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar. What did you make of India's engagements in the last maybe few days as well as going forward? Are we also looking to seek out other key capitals to impress upon them the facts of the case, and that pressure should be applied on China to desist from such miscalculation or misadventure going forward as well?
Yes, absolutely. And I think in some ways that's the right thing to do. We have a lot of support globally. If you see global response from various world capitals, it is very positive for India. Obviously, China is trying to shape the narrative, but so far we have seen there aren't many takers for that. Given that China has built up adversarial relationships or is in the process of building those relationships across the world. We've just heard from Australia, which has also targeted China in some ways, hinted at China's involvement in cyber attacks there. So clearly, in some ways, we are looking at a world which is being reshaped by China's aggressiveness and assertiveness. And India has emerged as a responsible stakeholder, and we have lots of political capital, diplomatic capital that we need to use, and we are using. I think the Russia angle is very interesting because we clearly don't want Russia-China axis to become more strong. It is, and I think the fact that we are having the Russia-China-India trilateral also indicates that Russians are keen on India's involvement at this juncture, given these episodes, and they might be insisting that India participates. And I think India should use that platform to even more strongly put India's point forward. And I think since the past defensiveness is gone, we can be pretty assured that we will put our point wherever it is needed and howsoever it is needed to be made. And I think that point has to be made not simply or bilaterally, but also multilaterally, but also plurilaterally, but also using every global platform where China needs to be, in some ways unmasked. That the kind of narrative, the kind of foreign policy outlandish statements that are coming from China, claiming the territories that were never in contention, that were never part of their maps till since 1962. Suddenly now they have become contentious. Those issues will be brought to the table and should be brought to the table and should be brought to the attention of global community. And I think India is. My sense is that India would like to do that and is prepared to do that. along with all the other things that we do in terms of building our own domestic capabilities, as well as being prepared for any eventualities that may happen on the border.
All right, gentlemen, I'm completely out of time, so I want to thank my guests, Professor Pant, Captain Bansal, and Ambassador Kumar for joining us on News9. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Right, moving on, the National Defence Academy, or the NDA, paid homage to its late cadet, Colonel B. Santosh Babu, who attained martyrdom in the line of duty in a clash with the Chinese troops in Galwan Valley of eastern Ladakh. A wreath-laying ceremony was organized. NDA Commander Lieutenant General Asif Mistry paid tribute on behalf of the officers and cadets of NDA as well as the alumni. All right, we're heading for a short commercial break. We'll be back in a short while. Stay tuned and keep watching DD News and DD India.
काश मैं महंगी टिकिया ले पाती।
महंगी नहीं, फेना सुपर वॉश टिकिया आजमाइए।
बेहतरीन झाग, रोज और चंदन, सुपर चमक।
महंगी टिकिया जैसी धुलाई फेना सुपर वॉश टिकिया में समाई।
फेना ही लेना।
फेना कपड़ों से हटाए कीटाणु, इंडिया में बना गर्व के साथ।
ध्यान। किसी भी आरामदायक मुद्रा में बैठें। अपने हाथों को घुटनों पर ज्ञान मुद्रा में रखें। तर्जनी उंगली के मुख से अंगूठे के मुख को छुएं। आंखें बंद रखें और चेहरे को हल्का सा ऊपर उठाएं। भुजाएं और कंधे ढीले और आराम की स्थिति में रहें। बिना किसी पर विशेष ध्यान केंद्रित किए केवल अपने भौहों के बीच हल्का सा ध्यान केंद्रित करें और अपने श्वासों के प्रति सजग रहें। श्वासों को मुक्त भाव से बहने दें। बस इस प्रवाह को अनुभव करें।
योग व्यक्ति, परिवार, समाज, देश, विश्व और संपूर्ण मानवता को जोड़ता है।
Welcome back, and now to the other big story we are tracking here on Newsnight. Prime Minister Modi launched a massive rural public work scheme called Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan to empower and provide livelihood to rural folk and migrant labor. He launched the campaign via video conference from village Telihar in Khagaria district of Bihar. Now, villages in 116 districts across 6 states would benefit from this campaign. Now, this 125-day campaign will work in mission mode. It will involve intensified and focused implementation of 25 different types of works to provide jobs to migrant labor. The focus will be on creating infrastructure in the rural areas. 50,000 crore rupees have been earmarked for this campaign.
गरीब के कल्याण के लिए, उसके रोजगार के लिए एक बहुत बड़ा अभियान शुरू हुआ है। ये अभियान समर्पित है हमारे श्रमिक भाई बहनों के लिए, हमारे गांवों में रहने वाले नौजवानों, बहनों, बेटियों के लिए। इनमें से ज्यादातर वो श्रमिक हैं जो लॉकडाउन के दौरान अपने घर वापस लौटे हैं। वो अपनी मेहनत और हुनर से अपने गांव के विकास के लिए कुछ करना चाहते हैं।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi launching Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan, a momentous outreach to create job opportunities for migrants who have returned to their native places amid lockdown.
आपको रोजगार देने के लिए 50,000 करोड़ रुपए खर्च किए जाने हैं। इस राशि से गांवों में रोजगार के लिए, विकास के कामों के लिए करीब 25 कार्य क्षेत्रों की पहचान की गई है। ये 25 काम या एक प्रकार से 25 प्रोजेक्ट्स ऐसे हैं जो गांव की मूलभूत सुविधाओं से जुड़े हैं, जो गांव के लोगों के जीवन को बेहतर बनाने के लिए हैं।
The announcement follows 1.75 lakh crore rupees worth of benefits, including ration, that were rolled out under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana for migrants, as the government recognized the need to do skill mapping of rural migrant labor to employ them closer to their homes. Under the campaign Modern facilities would also be provided in rural areas.
सरकार पूरा प्रयास कर रही है कि कोरोना महामारी के इस समय में आपको गांवों में रहते हुए किसी से कर्ज न लेना पड़े, किसी के आगे हाथ न फैलाना पड़े।
Prime Minister spelled out initiatives announced earlier for the poor, farmers and villagers as part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, like One Nation, One Ration Card scheme to enable migrant labour to use their ration card in any part of the country. Amendment to APMC Act to enable farmers to sell their commodities anywhere, helping them get better prices. Amendment to Essential Commodities Act that does away with government's powers of imposing stockholding limits in foodstuffs except under extraordinary conditions of war, famine and natural calamities. Development of cold storage facilities. Investment of 1 lakh crore rupees to link farmers directly with the market, and development of local industries in districts based on locally available products and their packaging. Participating in the campaign via video conference, Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar said that the campaign will address job woes of migrants in rural areas while also transforming villages.
केंद्र सरकार ने शुरू कर दिया गरीब कल्याण रोजगार अभियान। ये बहुत ही लोगों के लिए राहत पहुंचाने वाली योजना है। 6 राज्यों के 116 जिलों का चयन किया गया।
The campaign will span over 125 days in mission mode. It will involve focused implementation of 25 categories of works or activities in 116 districts, where at least 25,000 migrants have returned in 6 states. 27 aspirational districts are among the 116 districts. 25 work areas have been identified for employment in villages. The public works where migrant labour will be in sync with the needs of the villagers, like rural housing for poor, plantations, provision of drinking water through Jal Jeevan Mission, Panchayat Bhavans, community toilets, rural mandis, rural roads and other infrastructure like cattle sheds, Anganwadi Bhavans, etc. A resource envelope of 50,000 crore rupees has been earmarked for the campaign. On the occasion, the Prime Minister also lauded the containment measures adopted by rural India against COVID-19, while urging all to continue to follow precautions like wearing masks, social distancing and maintaining hygiene. With inputs from Sudhakar Das, News Night Desk, DT News.
All right, now listening to some reactions that have come in on this rural employment campaign.
जो मोदी जी के द्वारा गरीब कल्याण योजना का शुभारंभ हुआ है, इससे हम गरीबों को बहुत फायदा होने वाला है। इसीलिए हम मोदी जी को तहे दिल से धन्यवाद देते हैं।
जो भी कमाने के लिए बाहर जाते थे वो अब नहीं जाना पड़ेगा। हम लोग को गांव में रोजगार मिल रहा है।
मैं सूरत में काम करता था, जो कोरोना वायरस के चलते मैं वहाँ से घर पे लौटा हूँ, और जो प्रधानमंत्री रोजगार गरीब कल्याण अभियान रोजगार जो प्रधानमंत्री आज ही जो लॉन्च किए हैं, वो गिरिडीह जो चयन किए हैं, मैं उससे बहुत खुश हूँ।
हम नागपुर मजदूरी को गए थे, काम बंद होने के कारण कोरोना की वजह से वापस आ गए। हमारे गांव में मजदूरी नहीं थी। नरेंद्र मोदी ने गरीब कल्याण योजना शुरू करी है, उससे हमको मजदूरी मिलेगी। हम मोदी जी का धन्यवाद करते हैं।
बहुत खुश है, उनका धन्यवाद। कथी ले हरियाणा पंजाब जावे थे प्रधानमंत्री तरफ से जैसे से इतना योजना मिल गए, काम करबे, पंजाब नहीं जाने से, हरियाणा नहीं जाने से, उनका धन्यवाद।
प्रधानमंत्री योजना शुरू भेले, हमारे का कल पता चल रही है। काम धंधा जे चाट ना मिलते, हम बाहर क्या जीवे, तो सब कुछ जे बहुत खुश है प्रधानमंत्री के प्रणाम।
गांव में ही काम मिलेगा, बाहर नहीं जाने पड़ेगा। प्रधानमंत्री का शुक्रिया अदा करता हूं कि गांव में ही काम दे रहा है।
हमारे जो माता पिता जो काम करते हैं दूर जाकर, वो यहीं पे करवा दी सुविधा, तो बड़ी कृपा होगी हम लोग की। हमारा ये निवेदन है सरकार से कि यहाँ पे 2-4 कंपनी और खुलवा दे।
काम धंधा अच्छा मिले, कि करे, सब लोग साथ रहे, परिवार मिलकर कमाए खाए, और का
परिवार के संगे काम में ही ठेन मिली तो ही ठेन आदमी करी, कहीं बाहर न जाएगी पड़ी। लड़का बच्चा है, सब काम धंधा यही करिए।
And Prime Minister Modi interacted with some migrant workers who returned home because of the coronavirus pandemic. Many of them shared their experiences with him. They said they had greatly benefited from various government schemes.
चंदन जी कहाँ पर थे?
हम सर राजस्थान में, सर अजमेर जिला में से थे।
कितने साल से अजमेर में हो?
वहाँ सर 7 महीने से हम थे।
अच्छा, आपको मालूम है ये जो प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण अन्न योजना का लाभ लोगों को दे रहे हैं, कि आपको भी मिला है क्या?
जी सर, मिला है हम सबको।
कितना मिला है?
एक जैसे सर पहले कार्ड पे से मिल रहा था, फ्री हमको मिल रहा है सर। एक आदमी पर 5 केजी चावल और दाल मिल रहा है सर।
मुझे विश्वास है कि आज जो गरीब कल्याण रोजगार अभियान शुरू हुआ है, उससे आप जैसे जो कुशल लोग हैं, उनकी शक्ति का उपयोग हम जो गांव का विकास करना चाहते हैं, ये आफत है लेकिन अवसर बन जाएगी। सुनीला जी नमस्ते। आपको शारीरिक कष्ट हो रहा है, फिर भी आप जीविका दीदी के रूप में काफी काम कर रही है।
ये सर काफी काम कर रहे हैं। जीविका के तहत जो हम गाय बकरी पालन करके अपना उपार्जन कर रहे हैं।
गांव के लोग मानते हैं सारी बातें?
पूरा सारे बात मानते हैं गांव के लोग। कोई भी बिना मास्क के बाहर नहीं निकलता।
शहरों में तो समझाने में बहुत दिक्कत आती है।
नहीं भैया, हमारे यहाँ नहीं दिक्कत होता है।
चलिए, गांव वालों से तो बहुत कुछ सीखना पड़ेगा हमको। सरकार की किसी योजना का लाभ मिला है?
प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना मिला था।
मिला? पैसा सीधा आपके बैंक में आ जाता था?
जी।
पूरा पैसा मिल गया?
जी।
किसी ने कहा नहीं ना ये मकान तो मैं दिलवा रहा हूँ, मोदी जी कौन होते हैं, नीतीश बाबू कौन होते हैं, लाओ उसमें से 2000 रुपया मुझे दे दो, ऐसा नहीं किया ना किसी ने?
जी नहीं।
वाह, ये बढ़िया सुन करके मुझे अच्छा लगा। देखिए, घर बहुत बढ़िया बनाया है।
2 कमरा बनाए थे।
अच्छा।
एक रसोई बनाए थे, एक शौचालय।
बेटी बड़ी होगी तो उसकी शादी जल्दी हो जाएगी। घर पक्का हो गया तो, बेटा बड़ा हो गया तो बहू जल्दी आ जाएगी। ऐसा ही होना है ना? हाँ। चलिए, बहुत अच्छा है। तो मेरी तरफ से आपको ये नया आवास मिला है, इसके लिए बधाई हो आपको।
All right, let's now get you a roundup of all COVID-19 related news from across the country.
In Delhi, only those COVID-positive cases which do not require hospitalization on clinical assessment and do not have adequate facilities for home isolation would be required to undergo institutional isolation. Earlier, institutional isolation was made mandatory for all positive cases in national capital. Delhi Health Minister Satyendra Jain, who is admitted in ICU of a private COVID-19 hospital, was on Saturday administered plasma therapy and his condition is now stable. The condition of the minister is improving and he is being monitored by doctors. Satyendra Jain was shifted to the ICU of a private hospital from a city government facility after his condition had deteriorated. A senior BJP MLA in Madhya Pradesh tested COVID-19 positive hours after he cast his vote for the Rajya Sabha post on Friday in the state and attended party meetings. The legislator's wife has also tested positive for the infection. One corona-positive MLA had voted on Friday in Madhya Pradesh during the Rajya Sabha elections. In Punjab, police personnel distributed face masks to people in Amritsar to spread awareness about COVID-19 pandemic as the state observes a weakened lockdown. Only shops of essential items are allowed to open on Saturdays and Sundays in the state. The rising number of COVID cases has raised demands of oxygen facilities in beds in Mumbai. Dedicated COVID health centers at Mahim Nature Park in Dharavi has dedicated 197 beds with oxygen supply for critical patients. In Tamil Nadu, a photo studio in Coimbatore is making custom-made face mask which has faces of people printed on them amid COVID-19. This face-imaged mask is now getting popular among the public and they also share their experience when they wear plain mask and face-imaged mask. In Karnataka, a group of Mercy Angels has been conducting last rite of COVID-19 victims as per their faith in Bangalore. Team head Dr. Taha Madeem said that municipal corporation has contacted them for performing last rites as people are scared of going near bodies of COVID victims. In Jammu Kashmir, Hope Disability Centre, an NGO in Gandarbal that caters to needs of differently abled people, has resumed its service after lockdown relaxations. They have developed standard operating procedure and providing transportation facilities to patients in view of COVID-19. This has eased the woes of disabled patients in Kashmir Valley who were facing problems during COVID-19 lockdown. News Night Desk, DD News, DD India.
About mass COVID-19 nucleic acid testing for its citizens in an effort to rein in a new outbreak. Officials in Beijing have been expanding nucleic acid testing across the city of 20 million since a cluster of infections linked to a wholesale food market erupted just over a week ago. Officials are now targeting tens of thousands of delivery personnel who regularly move around in the city. Mainland China saw 27 new confirmed coronavirus cases on 19th June alone. Now, the International Yoga Day will go digital for the first time since 21st June 2015, when it began to be celebrated annually across the world, coinciding with the summer solstice each year. Now, with the shadow of COVID-19 pandemic looming large, the Yoga Day on 21st June will be celebrated on digital media platforms. The Ayush Ministry has invited people from all over the world to come together to celebrate the International Yoga Day 2020 and join the harmonious demonstration of common yoga protocol from the safety of their home. This year's theme is Yoga at Home and Yoga with Family, and people will be able to join the celebrations virtually.
We are marking the 6th Yoga Day in extraordinary times. Usually, Yoga Day is about public events, mass participation. This year, Yoga Day goes indoors. The theme of the year is Yoga at Home and Yoga with Family.
International Yoga Day with a difference. Owing to the coronavirus pandemic, the ancient practice of yoga will go digital. The day will begin at 6:30 a.m. on the 21st of June 2020 with a live demonstration of the 45-minute common yoga protocol by the team from Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga. The drill of CYP has been designed keeping people of different age groups and of varied walks of life in mind. Yoga is found to be especially relevant in the pandemic situation, since its practice leads to both physical and mental well-being and increases the individual's ability to fight diseases. And this is the focus of the event this year.
The COVID-19 pandemic may have reduced our mobility, but it should not affect our enthusiasm towards yoga. This time, small is smart and small is good. Respecting the present situation, let us mark the 6th International Day of Yoga from our homes, with our family.
Indian missions abroad are trying to reach out to the people through digital media as well as through the network of institutions which support yoga. Another unique feature, the My Life, My Yoga video blogging competition, which was launched by the Prime Minister on 31st May, has brought to raise awareness about yoga. It will close on Sunday, 21st June at 23:45 p.m.
आयुष मंत्रालय ने माई लाइफ माई योगा नाम से अंतर्राष्ट्रीय वीडियो ब्लॉग की प्रतियोगिता शुरू की है। भारत ही नहीं, पूरी दुनिया के लोग इस प्रतियोगिता में हिस्सा ले सकते हैं। इसमें हिस्सा लेने के लिए आपको अपना 3 मिनट का एक वीडियो बनाकर अपलोड करना होगा।
The videos can be uploaded on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram with the contest hashtag MyLifeMyYogaIndia and appropriate category hashtag. On 11th December 2014, the United Nations General Assembly declared the 21st of June as International Day of Yoga, months after Prime Minister Modi had proposed the idea. News Night Desk, DD News.
And now to another keenly anticipated event. The annular solar eclipse, often called the Ring of Fire, is set to take place on 21st June. The solar eclipse is a phenomenon awaited by scores of sky gazers. is the first solar eclipse of the year. Take a look at the next report.
Sky watchers are in for a treat. The annular eclipse, often called the Ring of Fire, is all set to take place on Sunday. Annular eclipses occur when the moon passes between Earth and the sun, but not quite close enough to our planet to completely obscure the sun's light. Sunday's eclipse coincides with the northern hemisphere's longest day of the year, the summer solstice, when Earth's north pole is tilted most directly towards the sun. A narrow band from West Africa to the Arabian Peninsula, India and southern China will witness the most dramatic Ring of Fire solar eclipse in years. Bhuj will be the first town in India to see the beginning of the eclipse at 9:58 a.m. In Delhi, the eclipse will begin at 10:19 a.m. and will reach the maximum at 12:01 p.m. and will end at 1:48 p.m.
We have the annular solar eclipse, 21st of June 2020, and this solar eclipse is something which is going to be visible at least as a partial solar eclipse all over India. And from Delhi, for instance, where it is partial, but then at the maximum we will see at least 95% by diameter of the sun to be eclipsed. And the eclipse going to begin at around 10:19. By 12:01 it would be at the maximum. It's going to finish around 1:48 p.m.
From India, annular phase will be visible in the morning from some places within a narrow corridor of northern part of the country, which includes parts of Rajasthan, Haryana and Uttarakhand. And it will be seen as partial solar eclipse from the rest part of the country. Few prominent places within this narrow annularity path are Dehradun, Kurukshetra, Chamoli, Joshimath, Sirsa, Suratgarh. In India, the obscuration of the sun by the moon at the time of greatest phase of the annular eclipse will be nearly 98.6%. Obscuration of the sun by the moon at the time of greatest phase of partial eclipse will be around 94% in Delhi, 80% in Guwahati, 78% in Patna, 75% in Silchar, 66% in Kolkata, 62% in Mumbai, 37% in Bangalore, 34% in Chennai and 28% in Port Blair. With Tapas Bhattacharya, Bureau Report, DD India.
And that's a wrap on News Night. But news continues here on DD India and DD News. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.